Jnanatmirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nam Shirsham Numapi Satyaputram Matrasarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamuru Purim Mathurim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tannatasmi Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nikhila Shruti Mole Ratnamaladhyate Nirajita Padapankajanta Ajimukta Kulairupasyamanam Paritasvam Harinam Samshrayami Narpitacharim Tirat Karunayavatirna Kaluh Shamar Paitumunatas Balarasam Sabhakti Sriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyutikadamba Sundipitaha Sada Hridaye Kandare Spurato Vasachinandana Janalambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksham Vishwambaro Dhiyavaro Jugadharmapal Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Ladini Shakti Sarubhaya Gauranga Suridaya Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namaste He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Radhi Vrindavanadi Shri Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Darshan Mahim Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihinaya Parada Lakshaya Shiktascha Kamaditaranjamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Charanarabindam Brinde Namaste Charanarabindam Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Kartik Bhrata Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Praman Hari Hari Bol. So, pranam to all of you from Sri Vrindavan Dham, and again happy to be back for our weekly Q&A. Still somehow recovering from some last days of not feeling very well, not yet in my 108%, but we are on our best attempt here with your prayers and good wishes, trying to continue serving the Vaishnavas through Harikatha. So let's begin. If you have any questions, any topics, something you would like to hear about, we will begin with that. And of course, in that sense, I already have two questions that have been sent. One that was from the previous meeting. We didn't have time for dealing with that one. From Nrsimhabalava Prabhu from Scotland. And then there is a second question sent by Sakyarati Devi yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So let's begin with those two. And let's see where do we end, and if we have time for more. So the question by Nrsimhabalava Prabhu was, he says, in your lectures on Brahmana Gita, You have said in regards to Krishna sending Uddhava to Vraj that Uddhava has some Aisvarya to not misunderstand the Madhurya of Vraj, and he has some Madhurya to not understand the Madhurya of Vraj, which is full of Madhurya, but also has Aisvarya at its foundation. Could you please elaborate on this statement? Okay, yes, we can say something about that. So, of course, as you may recall, we have done this series on Brahmar Gita for the last almost half a year or more, and we finished some months ago or maybe weeks ago. And at one point we mentioned this idea. Of course, there's much to say in that connection, but Uddhava goes to Vrindavan to send a message, but arguably to receive a message himself from the Vrajavasis, a message that will create a transformation in him, a total, if you will, identity crisis for good, where he will recalibrate his own sense of devotion and discover a new face of Krishna, because Uddhava is a personal minister, servant, assistant of Sri Krishna in Dwarka. So he knows Krishna very closely. He's his closest servant and friend. Uddhava is in Dasya Rasa, but there is some Sakya in his disposition towards Krishna. So he's pretty intimate, as much as you can get almost in a place like Dwarka, which is much different than Vraj. So in that sense, Uddhava, in his own estimation, he feels very fortunate. I'm so close to Krishna, or basically the closest person to him in Dwarka. But suddenly when he arrives to Vrindavan, he realizes everything here, not only everyone, everything is closer to Krishna than me in Dwarka. Even the speck of dust, the blade of grass, what to speak of every single participant of the Leela, in Yashodananda, Sridham, Subal, Radha, and so on. So my point is that by meeting the bhava or the prem of the Vrajavasis, he also meets a new Krishna, because Krishna corresponds with the prem of his devotees. According to a type of prem, God appears in a particular way. So here, Uddhava in Vrindavan is discovering a new type of prem, therefore he's discovering a new Krishna. And he already knows Krishna, but now he realizes in a more comprehensive way who is Krishna. And now he can grasp and understand much better those moments in Dwarka where Krishna is absorbed in Vrindavan, which are not only some moments, but Uddhava at least was able to catch some moments here and there, because he was not a Vrajavasi. He was not fully able to catch what was going on. But after meeting the Vrajavasi, so many things started to make sense for him regarding Krishna in Dwarka. So therefore he goes there, in brief, long story, and he finds this type of prem, and as we say, he becomes overwhelmed by the degree of prem, but at the same time, he's not mistaking that prem as something mundane and something prakrita, ordinary. But at the same time, he's not able to fully enter into that. So in this connection, in one level, he appreciates that, and in one level, he's overwhelmed by that. This quote comes, like, okay, Uddhava has, how was the quote? Let me see. He has some Aisvarya to not misunderstand the Madhurya of Vraj. So that's first point. So let's go with that one. Of course, as we mentioned, Madhurya, when we say Madhurya here, we are not referring to romantic love, because also that can be the case, Madhurya Bhav, Madhurya Rati. But Madhurya in general refers to the predominant mood of Vrindavan, which is intimacy. Madhurya can be sweet. Madhurya means sweetness, literally. And sweetness in this case refers to the sweetness of the love of Vrindavan in general, not only limited to the gopis, but to everything and everyone in Braj. All of them experience Madhurya, in contrast with Aisvarya. As we know, Aisvarya represents this sense of Krishna is God, and therefore I have to worship him. I love him because he's God, but we know that doesn't happen in Vrindavan. They love Krishna, they do not worship Krishna, they love Krishna, and not because he's God, but because he's Krishna, basically. They worship God for the sake of Krishna. They worship Narayan. Everyone has Narayan in their altar at home, and they pray to Narayan, please protect Krishna, please bless us so we can meet Krishna. So all their worship of Narayan converges into their love for Krishna, interestingly. So the point is that the intimacy or the Madhurya of Vrindavan for the untrained eye can seem ordinary. Because again, the Brajavasis are not addressing Krishna as Bhagavan. All the scriptures, Shastra, Upanishads, Veda describe Krishna, Ishvara, Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Krishna Stu, Bhagavan Swayam, Purna Brahma, Sanatanam, Supreme Brahman, the Absolute, the origin of everything, Isabhashi, and so on. But nobody in Vrindavan will dare to call Krishna like that. So it may seem this is an ordinary thing. And just so they're chastising Krishna, and the gopis are chastising Krishna, and Krishna's friends are chastising Krishna, wrestling him to the ground. So again, all externally seems ordinary. It doesn't seem to be the proper way to deal with God. It seems externally. But again, the Madhurya of Vrindavan is not ordinary. This is not ordinary. The way Krishna reciprocates with them, even, not only how they treat him, but how he himself reciprocates accordingly, how he himself sees himself in connection to them. All that seems so ordinary from superficial appreciation. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes this important point in the second part of his Raga Varma Chandrika. That's a recommended section for going further detail when he mentions these two points of Mukdata and Sarvajñata. In Vrindavan, Krishna remains Sarvajña, which means omniscient. He remains he's God. It's not like he stopped being God. He's still God, but Mukdata. He acts in a very naive way, innocent way, bewildered way. But the bewilderment is out of prem, not out of Maya Shakti. So he's God, and despite his God, he behaves as a baby with Jashoda. And that makes him especially charming. That allows for Madhurya. On the experience, Madhurya, when we speak of Madhurya, we speak about something which has Aisvarya as its foundation, but nonetheless expresses itself in intimacy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the example of a baby. No? He says, why a baby may be charming, but why Krishna as a baby is especially charming? What's the difference between a baby, normal baby, and baby Krishna? Why Krishna is especially charming? And the answer is because he's God. And despite his God, he acts as a baby. So the point is, because he's God means there is some Aishvarya there. He's God. And despite Aishvarya, Madhurya is there. He's acting in that intimate way we just showed. So Vrindavan is full of Madhurya, but actually it's full of Aishvarya. There is more Aishvarya in Vrindavan than there is even in Vaikuntha. But the Aishvarya in Vrindavan is not appearing in the forefront, generally. In some particular case, it may come for a moment, like Brahma Vimohan Lila here and there. But generally, the Aishvarya is just in the background, and it's buried, that's what I will like to say, under layers and layers of intimacy. But the Aishvarya is necessary for Madhurya to happen. Because if you only have intimacy, but without Aishvarya, without divinity of Krishna, the intimacy is just ordinary intimacy, and the whole Lila becomes mundane. And of course, that's not the idea. So that on one side. So Uddhava has some Aishvarya. No? He's a Jnani Bhakta in the sense he has knowledge that Krishna is God. So when he goes to Vrindavan and he sees the love, the intimacy of the Brajavasis for Krishna, they understand that they are loving God in this unique way, but nonetheless it's something extraordinary because Krishna is the object of their love and he is God. So that Aisvarya that he has, because he comes from Dwarka, and Dwarka is predominated by Aisvarya, although there is some intimacy on some level. In Mathura, it's predominated by intimacy, although there is some Aisvarya. And in Vrindavan, there is full intimacy, although full Aisvarya is also there, but totally buried. So that's the first part. And the second part, I mentioned, but also Uddhava has some Madhurya to not understand the Madhurya of Vraj. So what did I mean by that? Again, he's coming from Dwarka. So in Dwarka, there is not a predominance of Madhurya, but there is some Madhurya nonetheless. There is some Nara Lila in Dwarka. There is some intimacy of Krishna with his associate, like with Uddhava. When Krishna is asking Uddhava, please give me some advice, what to do here, should I do this, should I do that? And that allows for certain informality and intimacy. But again, he has his own experience of Madhurya, as I mentioned before. So he thought, okay, I know what Madhurya is. I know what intimacy with Krishna is. I'm his personal secretary. I'm intimate. I live with him. I give advice to him. I mean, I know what intimacy with Krishna is. So that experience that he has, in one way, somehow is conditioning him, if you will. So when he finds another type of intimacy like the one in Vraj, he's not able to grasp that, basically. It's like too much for him. Of course, in time, as we mentioned, he gradually starts to digest that. He remains in Vrindavan almost for a year, wandering there with the Brajavasis, doing the first Vraja Mandal Parikram that we have register of, and acquiring further some scars, and in this way expanding his appreciation of all that. But that was my point when I say he has also some Madhurya to not understand the Madhurya of Vraj, implying his Madhurya is not the same Madhurya of Vraj. So he comes with his own experience of Madhurya, but when he finds this other Madhurya, which is so much different, somehow it creates such a contrast that is overwhelming for him, and he shows the symptom that he shows in the Bhagavatam. So basically, that will be the idea that I wanted to establish when saying that quote. No, but making this important point regarding the interaction between Madhurya and Aisvarya in Vrindavan, which is a very interesting point, and I would recommend Nrsimha Bala Prabhu to further explore that in this last section of the second part of the Ragavarma Chandrika. And so I hope that helps. So we will go with the next question, which is from Sakyarati Devi. Says like this: why is it often not considered acceptable to say that a guru could make mistakes or say something wrong? Maybe the guru, as an instrument of Guru Tattva, is inspired without knowing it, to say something that's not correct, but that will touch the disciple deeply and work on the disciple or on other people, who is under so many layers of material conditioning. Maybe if looked at with a narrow vision, the guru is actually wrong, but from a broader perspective, he is not. Can you shed some light on this? Yeah, that's a good question, a classical question. And actually, interestingly, yesterday I was meeting one friend of mine, Radha Madhav Prabhu, disciple of Srila Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Maharaj, and we were discussing, we were together like for a few number of hours, and one of the main topics we were discussing was this, basically, because also he's writing a book on the topic, basically, called Perfect Imperfection on how do they say, the guru having a license to err, no? To make mistakes. So for sure, some of the points I will share now for sure will come as a result of what we were talking yesterday. And eventually when the book is there, more than recommended. I had the chance of go through some sections of it. That is very, I mean, I was invited even to contribute by sharing some ideas and recommendations. Very, very, very important contribution. So yeah, sometimes we find that devotees feel or say that the guru cannot be mistaken anywhere, at any point, in any moment, that our culture is that we are always the one who are mistaken. And if some mistake apparently comes in the guru, it's not possible, and it's always our mistake that we are seeing mistakes in the guru. Of course, I will clarify what do we mean by mistake also, because grammatically, semantically speaking, we can say something and, and everyone may be understanding different things. So there is place for mistakes. Of course, there are mistakes and mistakes. No? Some mistakes shouldn't be there ideally. Of course, also when we say guru, there are gurus and gurus. There are levels of gurus. No? But of course, if we speak about the guru as what it should be ideally, which is a sincere devotee, surrender on what is with a certain level of adhikar, minimum madhyam adhikar, if we speak about guru as in the role of diksha guru, but we know only diksha guru is not necessarily applicable to the idea of guru. Guru is guru. So, but if you are seriously and sincerely surrender to Bhagavan, strictly speaking, in that sense, there are no mistakes, substantially speaking. But on a more relative platform, there can be mistakes, not only in the Madhyam Bhakta, but even in an Uttam Bhakta. But again, those mistakes, as we will see, are not compromising the inner standing of the sadhu in this case. No? So sometimes we may have these shortcomings that don't challenge the purity of the devotee, and to have those that actually challenge the purity of the devotee. So of course, when I refer to those who challenge the purity of the devotee, we are speaking about delicate mistakes like aparad, envy, falling into gross sinful activities, and so on. That's one thing. And of course, we are not giving license to that in the name of, the guru can make mistakes, no problem in that sense, no. But there is place for soft, if you will, mild, if you want to call like that, mistakes, which are not challenging the position, the inner standing of Sri Guru. And actually, as we were speaking yesterday with Radha Madhava, not only that, but actually act, and also as what Sakyarati said in the question, they are appearing to invite us, to test us, to challenge us, to make us deepen in our service attitude. And sometimes, there can happen with the Guru being instrumental of Bhagavan, who is putting us, the disciples, to test through those so-called mistakes. But it's important to understand, because sometimes this idea is the Guru is totally infallible. Every single thing he or she does in every single way, every single word, every single act is absolutely perfect from tip to toe. But that, instead of promoting a healthy development of faith, probably is promoting the opposite. Even though in the beginning it may seem like very powerful, and my guru is the perfect person, everything he does is absolute, and I do not allow myself to see any single mistake in any time, and it may seem, wow, you have such a strong faith, but actually maybe speaking about my weak faith, in which I do not have the capacity to accommodate certain relative statements or certain mild mistakes that the Guru may have committed, and grow through that. So it may block our progress instead of facilitating it. Or sometimes even in connection to that, I've heard some devotees promoting the notion that the guru is omniscient, for example. Like he knows everything at every moment. So in this case, we see that there will be many like ascribing qualities that belong to Krishna to the guru, in the name of the guru is Krishna. We will try to explain in which sense the guru is Krishna, and in which sense it is not. Because if the guru is Krishna in every single sense of the word, that may be even close to Mayavad. I became Krishna, something like that. So for example, regarding omniscience, those who say the guru is omniscient, well, the guru is still a jiva tattva. And when it is mentioned the 64 qualities of Krishna, it is mentioned that the first 50 belong to jivas as well. And the next ones, from 50 to 55 and from 55 to 60, belong to other personalities, and jivas do not enter into that category. So omniscience appears in that list, but not in the first 50. In other words, omniscience is not something that a jivatma can attain. Omniscience comes 52, almost, but not in the first 50. And it is say, yeah, it's partially present in personalities like Mahadev, Shiva, but it's fully exhibited only in connection to Sri Hari. So it's not that we, Jivatmas, and it's not Jivatma means Jivatma, no matter, no, that refers to Bada Jiva, but pure devotee is another thing. It's not the case. It's not saying that in Shastra. Of course, we could say the guru is omniscient in the sense that he knows all that we need to know to attain perfection. It's not that the guru needs to know everything. It's not that if I ask my guru, Gurudev, is it raining now in South Africa or not? I don't know. Oh, you're not that bona fide. So no, because omniscience means that. It means you know everything. And it's not that the guru will know everything about every single thing. And there's no need for that. But the point is that the guru knows as much as is required for service, knows the essential truths that take us to the goal of life. As Krishna says in the Gita, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Krishna says, I give knowledge, I give enlightenment, I bless the intelligence of my surrendered devotees to come to me. I give that particular awareness that is required for all that we require. So it's important that, and this is stated over and over again. Radha Madhav Prabhu in his book was also Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani. Maybe you are aware of this section, which also speaks about the same point, that when the guru is like establishing, ascertaining the personal inclinations of his disciple, the disciple should help his guru or her guru by revealing her mind about her own preferences, internal affinity. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, as long as the disciple has not clearly established that, as long as the guru has not clearly established the disciple's inclinations, the guru's directions are not flawless. The guru may give some wrong direction because the disciple has failed in sharing his own affinity. So again, that shows it's not that the guru knows everything about what's going on in your heart necessarily. No, there's a part for us to play as well. No? Because again, in the name of glorifying the guru, he's omniscient, he's that, somehow we may be lazy ourselves and expecting, oh, he will do everything, he's so omniscient, so powerful, I don't need to do anything. And no, it's not like that. We need to do something else. So yeah, the guru is not omniscient. And with all this, we are not downplaying at all the role of Sri Guru, please. The guru is not omnipotent, and all these omnis that belong to Bhagavan, Sarva Shaktiman, the name of Bhagavan, who is the supreme source of all energy, or the supreme potent. Omnipotent means the source of all potency. So Sarva Shaktiman, and Bhagavan is Trikalagnya, not the Jiva. Trikalagnya means knower of past, present, and future, the three divisions of time. So again, when sometimes these ideas are ascribed to the guru, sometimes it happens because it is say, okay, but he's Sakshat Harit Bena, Samastra Sastra, Sakshat Hari, he's directly Hari. But when we say that the guru is directly God, it doesn't mean that he's God in every single sense, that he's Krishna himself in person. That's not the teaching in Shastra. Guru is Krishna in a representational sense, as my Guru Maharaj likes to say. He's a direct manifestation of love for Krishna, and wherever love for Krishna is present there in its most real way. He's the direct expression of the Kripa Shakti of Bhagavan, and Krishna's mercy, and he's to be honored, of course, at least equally, or even more, because again, the point is, he represents love for Krishna, and for us, the goal of life is love for Krishna, not Krishna. Yata Devi Tata Guru, like the scripture says. We are to honor Sri Guru at least as equally as Bhagavan himself, because he's representing him as equal, at least, like implying, if not more, because he's showing love for God, which is the goal, for Krishna even. He's after Prem. That's his prayojan as well. So, and that's why, for example, classical standard, you can see it in the altar. You do not offer tulsi leaves to the lotus feet of Sri Guru. You only offer to Bhagavan. If the Guru is Bhagavan in every single sense, then you could put tulsi leaves on him, but you do not. It's offensive because it is another tattva, another category. Jiva tattva, Vishnu tattva, or Guru tattva, Vishnu tattva. So, and today I read that nice line in that connection from Radha Mahaprabhu. He said, God does not descend as Guru, but God descends through Guru. So that's a one word difference, but it's an important point. God is not descending as Guru, in the sense he's Guru is Krishna in every single sense, but through the Guru, we have the connection, the experience of who Krishna is, and we have the hope to attain him. So that said, yes, there are examples of Guru committing mistakes, again, mild mistakes, and rectifying themselves, which is something glorious, I will say, which is something we need to perceive, to see. I mean, if not, it's a little bit like unreal. Like every Guru is always perfect, never makes a mistake. And how can you learn from a teacher that is never mistaken? No? Everything is perfect, everything is correct, and you are always the one who is mistaken. It sounds a little bit dysfunctional, a little bit superficial. A real master is someone who will be willing to learn from mistakes. So, for example, I don't know, famous example, maybe you know this one. I'll share that later. That's another one. But for example, they say that Prabhupada was going back for a minute to what I said before. No, Srila Prabhupada is omniscient. Some devotees will say that at one point in ISKCON, this was a real issue. No, I mean, he's omniscient. Prabhupada is, some even at one point they were saying Prabhupada is Krishna himself, and Prabhupada had to stop. There were like sub-movements inside ISKCON with all different nuances, apasidantic nuances coming, like he's God, he's omniscient. And when they say he's omniscient, of course, then came, okay, but during Prabhupada's times, we were speaking about yesterday about that, there were abuses in the Gurukul, for example, different abuses in ISKCON, and Prabhupada was still on this planet. So if Prabhupada was omniscient, why didn't he do anything about that? You may ask. And they asked that, and some of them reply even, yeah, he knew about that, but he allowed that to happen because he thought that that will be the best way for those persons to go through their karma in that particular situation. And you can imagine where the faith of those who hear that type of reply ends. I mean, many of them left the whole practice altogether by this type of proposal. No, Prabhupada knew about all that, but he considered that was the best way for you to burn your karma through that. So it doesn't make sense. It's not like that. Actually, to say that once, and there's one interview with one disciple of him called Rohini, and she told that once she told Prabhupada about the abuses, and Prabhupada didn't know. and he was just in the middle of a big meeting, and he canceled the meeting, and he immediately started to pay attention to this point of the abuse and say immediately we have to chastise those personalities, and they closed down that Gurukul and so on. So my point is, Prabhupada is showing he didn't know about that, and he didn't agree about the abuse. No, but the other group was saying he knew and he agreed. No, but no, he didn't know and he agreed, and he didn't agree. But again, some of the problematic situation that may come when you promote absolute infallibility, or this other famous story of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, where he will give classes and some devotees will like type what he was saying, and those times there were no recorders, voice recorders, so he always had someone who was typing his lectures. So then they will review that and check details, and they found some words that they seem to be something that Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta misspelled, that he pronounced wrongly. Technically speaking, some words in, I don't know in which language, maybe in English, I think maybe in Bengali. So, and some devotees, most devotees, actually were of the idea of there cannot be any mistake in what Guru Maharaj says. So there's no need to change those so-called misspellings. Actually, the dictionary should be changed. And everyone was like applauding that, celebrating that. Jai, you have such an appreciation and deep faith in your Guru Maharaj, in our Guru Maharaj. No, dictionary should be changed. If Guru Maharaj say it like that, it must be a new revelation that the whole world needs to adapt to that now. This type of, and when it came to the ears of Srila Siddhar Maharaj, that the devotees were like thinking like that, he totally stopped that nonsense. And he said, no, it's not like that. No. That type of mentality, he says, that's Kanishta mentality. That's the mentality of the neophyte. Actually, a person with a deeper appreciation will correct those details in service to him, to bring his proper presentation and person in the proper glory and light to the world. So in service to him, one can point to those mistakes. Understanding it's an external thing, it's not compromising his inner adhikar or standing. So this is one of many examples in this connection. Another famous example is the one of Vyasadeva himself. I mean, if you want to speak about Guru making mistake, we have Vyasa, who is the very prototype of Guru for us. We celebrate Guru Purnim, beginning of Kartik. Beginning of Chaturmasya. And Guru Purnim is also Vyasa Purnim called, no? Like the birth of Vyasa. Vyasa is intimately related with the Guru and is part of our parampara. And Vyasadeva made considerable, if you will, to want to call like that, mistakes. No? In the Bhagavatam himself, he's presenting his anxiety, his lack of satisfaction, and Narada came and asked what's going on, and Vyasa tells, and Narada starts to chastise him and tell, you made a mistake when compiling the Vedas and not highlighting properly bhakti. So he's showing there's a mistake there. And Vyasa is open to recognize that. I mean, open not only to recognize, but to put his own story in the Bhagavatam. This is my mistake here. Do not make the same mistake you yourself again. No? And that's glorious for us. I mean, for us, that takes Vyasa to a special position. And all that give rise to the Bhagavatam, to a further upgraded version of revelation, if you will. So he exhibited there his self-correction. He put that, he's not that, oh, I made this mistake, I won't include that in the book, that will be embarrassing for me, let nobody know about it, it's only between my Guru and me. No, he just like put that in open voice to the whole world. And the Bhagavatam basically is a critique of his own previous works, basically, the compilation of the Veda and so on. In the Bhagavatam himself, he's starting Dharma Prahita Kaitavo Traparamonir Matsar. Dharma Prahita Kaitavo. He's saying totally rejecting all types, all forms of cheating Dharma. And cheating Dharma mostly means Dharma, Artha, Kama, and even Moksha. And that's all the things that Vyasa wrote about before the Bhagavatam. So then he started in the Bhagavatam criticizing what he wrote before, no? Like having the integrity to recognize that and continue moving on, progressing. And he says, yes, no problem, you can err, no big deal. We can discuss that and correct and keep growing. Or Vyasa Veti na Veti va. Even when the Bhagavatam revealed to him, came to him, this famous verse that says, Vyasa may know, he may not know what came to him. Not necessarily he's fully aware of all the things that came to him. For those who say Guru is omniscient, well, Vyasa sometimes is considered omniscient, but in this case it said he may not know every single detail there. So that's also connected, and also something connected that I will like. I already spoke about that recently, and this next Monday, the second article of my series that I started publishing last Monday will be on this. On which topic? On the topic that the Guru being Nitya Siddha, and how much and how necessarily a Guru is a Nitya Siddha in every single case. In some cases may not be necessarily a Nitya Siddha, and can be a sadhana siddha or can be an advanced sadhaka, and how not any of those things are a problem, should be a problem, and how if we feel there is a problem, then as Srila Puri Maharaj will say, you have a problem then. Because again, as we mentioned, we may convince ourselves and others about our strong shraddha, no? Because I do not allow the possibility of any single acharya having committed a mistake or having said something relative at times, because everything is absolute in them. And we may even denounce those who dare to say that the Guru made some mild mistake or say something relative. They do not have faith, strong faith in them, at least, or even worse than that. But actually, to take that stance can be actually showing our own weak faith, our own tender faith, that needs to absolutize even the relative, even the mild mistake, because we may not have enough strength to deal with the, as I may say sometimes, with the realm of paradox, with the realm of those things that beg for reconciliation. And of course, a more mature form of faith is open for these things to happen and has the capacity of accommodate challenging statements without one's faith being diminished, but growing actually exponentially. So that's the idea basically. When we, of course, this is not something to be done, but every devotee, neophyte devotees are yet not able to enter into those waters. They may drown there, but we should get qualified to navigate those waters, because it's the ocean we have to go through to attain higher and higher realms. So yeah, there is place for mistakes. And again, not only there is place, it's possible, but it's important to relate with people, with teachers that commit mistakes, and we can learn how they act when they commit mistakes. I mean, how they correct themselves, how they upgrade themselves, develop themselves. I mean, that's because we have so many mistakes, at least myself. So also you need some reference from a senior person, how to deal with your own mistakes, what to do when they come, when you realize them, how to act. So of course, it's not that the Guru will be on your same level and committing those same mistakes, but some mild mistakes may be there, and the Guru is willing to change his view. For example, it's the classical example where Prabhupada said that the brain of the woman is smaller than the brain of the man. And he heard that from some friend of him in India, and somehow it stuck with him, and he just never entered into detail and proved if that was real or not, and he just repeated that. And when he came to the West and he said that, immediately almost they say, no, it's not like that. There's no proof that that's a fact. Actually, it's the same thing, basically, in one sense. No, I mean, in terms of size and so on. So, and Prabhupada said, oh, really? Okay. So he changed his mind. It's not like he said, no, I'm always right. I never commit a mistake. Whenever I say you have to follow, he immediately recognized, oh, I was mistaken. I received some information that it was not okay. So again, that's not showing, oh, Prabhupada was mistaken, but it's showing he has the willingness to change and accept new information and update his vision of things. So that's glorious. I mean, so we need that example. And again, that's part of one's humanity, as Sakyarati Devi said, no? Also, Krishna may inspire the Guru to make some mild mistake to show her humanity. As the saying goes, to err is human. So we are not to dismiss our humanity. We want to enter Nara Lila. Nara Lila, especially Vraja Lila, Nara Lila is full of so-called imperfection, if you will. No? So as Maharaj says, Krishna in Vrindavan is wrapped around imperfection, around mistakes, like a filter. If we want to pay close attention to mistakes, to perfection, or we go to love, despite imperfection. Tilasya Maharaj will say, no, real love doesn't care for imperfection. Real love cares for love, and the imperfections actually increase love. Opposition increases harmony. Tilasya Maharaj will say. So imperfection is there, but nonetheless, the great personalities who have love and who take the essence will go beyond that. The Bhagavatam itself says that Bad Visargo Janataga Viplavo Jasmim Pratishlokam Avadavati Api, and so on. The Bhagavatam itself says this book, although imperfectly composed, no, there may be some technical error here and there, meter or whatever, this accepted, sung, and spread by great personalities, pure of heart. So there is a place for those things, these two things happening simultaneously. And Krishna in the Gita famous verse also, Api Chetsaduracharo, Bhajanti Mamananya Bhak Saduriva Samamtavya Samyak Vyasita. Even if you engage in the worst possible type of activities, imagine, most controversial verse of the Gita. But if you are determined in worshiping me with your heart, you are a saint for me, Krishna is saying. You have we have to ruminate on that. So that's an important point. So if you are determined in loving Krishna, even though still you make so many mistakes, in the eyes of Krishna, you are a saint. So the point is, we should, of course, get closer to that type of glance as well. And yesterday, I remember Radha Madhava shared with me a nice quote. He told me, like, not quote, but idea, reflection, conclusion, realization he had. Like, here in Vrindavan, he told me, nobody is perfect. And I will add to that, not even Krishna, in the realm of the Nara Lila. No? But everyone loves Krishna perfectly. No? In the personal example and behavior and details, you may get stuck in, oh, they are doing this, like they are not following this is not correct, this is not technically right, why they are doing like that. But they are loving Krishna perfectly. So that's the real perfection, not the other one. So in conclusion, just to not really go too much more into detail, but the purity of Sri Guru, again, making full circle, lies in his or her desire to serve Krishna purely, in her surrender, not in never making a mistake. Nowhere in Shastra says adhikar for being a guru, or that shows how advanced you are in bhakti is you have never made the mistake. Let me know where's that verse. So actually, the only mistake is not being fully surrendered, if you will, in this connection. And any other quote unquote mistake, as we mentioned, will be only a chance to put that to test, challenge ourselves to improve, and to serve more unconditionally. Because again, if I only serve my guru because he's perfect, that's a conditional love, basically. I only serve you because you are perfect. So basically you are telling, if you will not be perfect, I wouldn't be serving you. You follow? So again, externally may seem I have so much faith in my Gurudev, he's perfect, he's omniscient, he's infallible, and that's why I surrender to him. But what if he's not infallible in this sense, not in the sense of relative details? You will be put to test. Will you continue serving him, loving him? Or your faith will be shaken because, oh, he mispronounced one word, or he didn't know this. Oh, no. So then in that moment, you are being invited to render unconditional service. So unconditional means it doesn't matter which is the external condition. So when the Guru, by Krishna's arrangement in exhibiting this type of mild mistakes, again, not to mistake, to mistake with, to confuse with the other grossest mistakes, one is invited to grow in one's surrender, more mature. And eventually, when you grow in that direction, and when you are really deep into, how to say, into unconditional service, those mistakes will actually be an udipana, be a stimulant to her to serve even further. That's the very conclusion of the Sikshastakam, the last verse. Mahaprabhu speaks in the mood of Sri Radha, and she basically says, "What Krishna may do this, whatever he likes with me. He can act as he pleases. He can kick myself. He can embrace me. He can appear. He can disappear. Let that lampatamani, that playboy, do whatever he likes. But he, nonetheless, he's the Lord of my life." So basically, that's the same point. He can commit mistakes. We know which is his character. He's a rascal. He's a playboy. He's a womanizer. Everyone knows here, Sri Radha says, but nonetheless, he's my prananath. He's my praneshwar. So I don't care. I mean, I love him every time more. It's not that Sri Radha's love diminishes when she sees Krishna's going to Chandravali, lying, cheating, doing all these mistakes, imperfections. All of that is just nourishing her love and everyone else's love in Vrindavan. So again, the important thing here is surrender. If there's proper surrender, there's no mistake. Let me finish with this famous story by Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Srila Sridhar Maharaj. You already may know, but just briefly mentioning again one more time, where there was one festival where the deity was to be installed in the Gaudiya Mat, and Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta was arriving late. And the part of the ceremony called Pran Pratishtha was to be done when Tulsi was put on the feet of Srimurti, and the devotees didn't know what to do. Now, should we wait for Guru Maharaj? He was delayed in a train. Or should we continue with the festival because so many people was there, important dignitaries? And they asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who was his immediate representative, and he said, no, we'll continue with the event. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj performed that ceremony, although he was not a pretty much famous person for being expert in rituals and so on, but he was a Saragrahi Vaishnava, so he did all that from the most essential place. So eventually Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta came and everything continued, and someone at the end of the event asked Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, well, we wanted to know if the deity is actually installed because actually the ceremony was not done following all the proper technicalities, basically all the proper procedures as it is described in the Padati, in the handbook or something. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta here, he didn't ask which was the mistake, but he asked who was the person doing that. So that in itself speaks volumes. No, he was straight to the point. He didn't care which was the mistake. He didn't want to know who was the person, and depending on who was the person, he was going to tell if there was a mistake or not. So of course, when he asked who was the person, someone tell Srila Sridhar Maharaj was the one who did that. And immediately Prabhupada Nityananda says, surrender soul cannot commit any mistakes. Mm. In this sense, again, substantially speaking, he's totally surrendered. There's no mistake, even though externally the technicality was there. So some ideas regarding Sakyarati Devi's question. I hope that it helps. Okay, so there is a follow-up question by Namrasa, and I think with that one we will finish today if it's possible. So it says, where is the line to draw then? I imagine in connection to everything that I have been speaking now. We may think something is a mistake in the Guru, which may not be a mistake, but because we have this mentality that the Guru is able to make mistakes, then anything is fair game. Yeah, I get the point. Of course, with this, I'm not just promoting that. That's what I mentioned. Not everyone is able to draw the line to be, because you say, where is the line to draw then? Well, the point is that you have to develop the capacity to draw the line. So not everyone can do that to begin with. No, a Kanishta Bhakta generally is not able to do that. So they are not allowed into that domain. I will say that will be dangerous for them. And that's why in certain stages, there is place for this absolutizing. Everything is perfect, no mistake, and so on. The Guru himself may say to some disciples, I've heard that, everything I say is perfect, it's absolute, but as a way of strengthening their weak faith in that particular moment. So, but eventually they will be able to deal with some other nuanced complexities that they will find on the path, basically. So again, it's not so much where to draw the line, because not everyone is able to draw the line, and the ones who have the adhikar, they will know where to draw the line. I will say, basically, when you, I mean, if you are a Kanishta Bhakta and you are serving under your Guru Maharaj's shelter, again, you may not need to hear all the things I've been saying, to be honest, but at one point for sure, one will. But at that first stage, there is no need for that. You need to pay attention to other things. So there's not a concern for some people. Like for example, one may be speaking about certain things like this, even, and someone may ask, what's the purpose of speaking about these things? So I will think in those cases, the fact that you are asking what's the purpose of speaking about the things shows that you are not ready for hearing about the things, because you don't feel them necessary. You may even feel it's a disturbance to what you feel is necessary to hear, and it's okay. If you are being honest about where you are, I mean, if you are in a place where you don't actually need to hear that, it's okay. But if you actually need to hear this, and still you are protesting about the topic you need actually to hear, that may be more problematic for sure. But if one is a Kanishta Bhakta, one may feel, why you are speaking about this? What's the need? And okay, no need for you to hear that. You continue. But hopefully you are under the guidance of someone who will tell you, you don't need to hear this, but it's not that everyone else does not need to hear this. What you need to hear now is you need to hear now. Other people need to hear other things. And you may not need to hear that, and you may not even need to enter into that, allow yourself to think about that, but at least be open to the possibility that reality is not only about those things that you feel you need to hear now. That's just one point in an eternal line. So, but if that Kanishta Bhakta remains, as Prabhupada will say, working inside the fence that the Guru puts around the disciple, without looking too much outside what's going on that fence, quite narrow-minded, but in a healthy, protective way, eventually, by grace, by connection, by seva, and some bhakti samskars, one will grow, mature above the fence and start to realize, oh, there is a whole realm of diversity and possibilities and variety and other things that I never considered before. And then you have to do something with that. You have to deal with that. And you may go to your guru, to other Vaishnavas to present your crisis, your new crisis now. So they will congratulate you and welcome to the club. No? And say, okay, a new club, you are entering into the whatever. No? And you will be further trained to deal with that and to deal with that. And so the point is, it doesn't have to be forced. I'm not with this promoting everyone now, let's look mistakes everywhere and you have to, I'm not saying that. But again, there are the two extremes which are dangerous. Of course, being a fault finder, which is not at all healthy. But one thing is to find faults. Also, we spoke about this with Radha Madhav. Another thing is to see faults. That's not the same. You can see a fault. It doesn't mean you are finding a fault. Now, there's people who just are following Ramachandra Puri's Sampradaya, if you will. Just fault finders, even when there's no fault at all. They project, they create, everything is tainted with faults. Even in Mahaprabhu, I mean, as you know, the famous story. Some ants walking outside, and for Ramachandra Puri, just that ant walking outside proved that Mahaprabhu was a false sannyasi, basically. For seeing one ant walking outside his room, oh, he's a false sannyasi. Why? Because there are ants, and if there are ants, it means there are sweets, and if there are sweets, he's eating something he shouldn't be eating as a sannyasi. But Ramachandra Puri himself, when he will see someone eating too less, because they start eating less because they know, oh, Ramachandra Puri will criticize, we're eating too much, so they start eating less. Then Ramachandra Puri will criticize, oh, you are eating too less. You are a false sannyasi in the other way. You are superficially renouncing too much. And when you start to eat a little bit more, you are eating too much. So the point is, no matter what you do, he will see a fault in you. So that's fault finding. That's fault finding. You really are concerned about seeing faults. Focus on that. But about finding faults, basically, which is technically speaking, is a different expression. But seeing faults, that's not necessarily a problem. Seeing faults is not necessarily a problem. There is one, I think, let me see, I found one quote today from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, from one article he wrote in this connection, which is very interesting. And I plan to share that with our next episode with Namrasa, if he allows me as well. From, where is, I have to see where it is, I don't know. Here it is. From Vaishnava Ninda, it's called. Vaishnava Ninda means to offend the Vaishnava. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, interestingly, especially for those who say it, you can never see a mistake in the Vaishnava, you can never see a mistake in the Guru, you are always the one wrong. It's not like that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not promoting that. We don't have a culture where we promote you are always wrong and the Guru is always right. in this absolute sense that I'm trying to explain today, of course. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, provided one has the right motive, and of course this is the litmus test, I mean, this is not a cheap thing, we have to really be properly situated. Provided one has the right motive, the scriptures have not condemned a careful analysis of someone's faults. Proper motive is of three types: desiring the welfare of the other person, desiring the welfare of the world, and desiring one's own welfare. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur basically is saying with that criteria can be even applied in connection to Sri Guru. If there is proper motive, again, it's not about doing the thing or not doing the thing, because you may be not doing the things externally, but internally you are not doing that for the wrong reasons, actually, and increasing your fanaticism and not going deep into your appreciation of Sri Guru and so on. And you may be externally finding fault, again, not finding, but seeing a fault, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, oh no, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta misspelled this. you can say, oh, you saw a fault in Guru Maharaj. And he say, no, it's not like that, as we mentioned. No? Srila Sridhar Maharaj will say, I have the exact quote of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He say, for those who say everything is absolute, we have to change the dictionary. He said, this is the attitude of a neophyte, a Kanishta Adhikari. The higher disciple will contemplate what Guru will want and correct his English so that his position will stand in public. Such correction is not offensive, but service of the highest quality. So you can imagine, no? For some that will be an aparat, and for someone like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, is a service of the highest quality, even though externally it takes the form of you are pointing at a mistake in your Guru. So I would say that's a big part of where to draw the draw the line in this connection. Have the proper motive and judge the fruit by the tree. How much we are really doing what here Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is doing. But again, this is not for someone in the kindergarten of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, basically. But we need to naturally, gradually evolve in that connection and under proper Sangha training gradually. That service is required. I mean, it's required that the devotees render that type of service as well. So I hope that helps, Namrasa. Okay, so I think we can stop here for today. So I appreciate your questions and presence, and here we continue in Vraja Mandal Parikram during this Kartik month. Everything is nice here. I'm trying to go to some places, and I will try to share some pictures these days as well, somehow, some way of extending the pilgrimage with all of you, and hope to see you next Thursday. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Kartik Vrata ki jai, Vraja Mandal Parikram ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki